Let's get right to the Newsmaker Hotline. Welcome on in, Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation. Hans, always great to talk to you. Going to do a bit of a deep dive into the Supreme Court finally taking a look at Donald Trump's tariffs. Now, at issue, there's a whole bunch of businesses that have brought these lawsuits against the Trump administration. Talk a little bit about the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which the president has been using to justify those tariffs.
Yeah, this is a law that was passed in 1977, and the Supreme Court has never, ever had an opportunity to review it. They've never had a case before them because it's almost never been used by a president. What it basically says is that if the president sees an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, or economy of the U.S., if he declares a national emergency, then he can regulate the importation or exportation of property from any foreign country. So that's the power, that's the law that the president used to impose. And remember, Dan, the president really imposed two kinds of tariffs. He declared that the smuggling of fentanyl into the country is a national emergency. And so he put tariffs on countries like Mexico, China, and Canada because he says they're not doing enough to stop the smuggling into the country. The second kind of tariffs that he put in, as folks I think well know, was that he declared that the trade deficit of the U.S. is so huge that it is also a national emergency, a threat to the economy of the country. And so he imposed tariffs on countries that he says have trade barriers that are keeping our products either out of the country or making them expensive. So that's what this is about. There were three different cases filed against him, some by businesses, some by states, all saying that he didn't have the power to do that. And there were 2.5 hours. That's very unusual of arguments in the Supreme Court yesterday. Usually it's only an hour. But this went on for 2.5 hours. And in essence, the government was arguing that it's the president that has the authority to declare the national emergency, and that even though the law doesn't say tariffs, right? It doesn't specifically give the president the power to impose tariffs. What the government said is, look, it gives them the power to regulate the importation or exportation of property, and tariffs have always been the traditional way of doing that. He got a pretty tough time from really all of the justices, asking him very tough questions. And he answered all of them. But I have to tell you, a lot of people are suggesting that, I guess the word skepticism has been most commonly used with the lawyer for the other side. It probably doesn't surprise you. The lawyer for the other side arguing against the Trump administration is the former Solicitor General for the Obama administration.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the SG for the Obama administration coming in and arguing that the president doesn't have the power to do it, given the way Obama was? Anyway,
Hans,
go ahead.
Let me ask you this. So, I mean, I agree, and I'm just going to play devil's advocate here because I'm clearly not a lawyer. So I agree that certainly under the Biden administration, illegal immigration was an emergency. I also agree the influx of fentanyl was an emergency as well. And, of course, the trade balance or imbalance, as it were, also not in our favor. But have presidents in the past used those kinds of things as justification for tariffs? Or what was President Trump forging sort of like a new look at this?
No, he's forging a new look at it. And in fact, one of the arguments that was used against him successfully in the lower courts was that the court said, well, look, we've had this huge trade deficit now for a very long time, decades, in fact. So how can it suddenly be an emergency?
Yeah.
And I think the argument of the Trump folks was, well, it's just that in the past, presidents weren't willing to try to do something about it.
And I don't. Just so we're clear, I don't fault the president for wanting to push. I mean, that's I don't have an issue with that at all, and I'm a big supporter of President Trump. I think my worry is in reading about all of this is that it was more than just the usual two, John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett. It was as you just said, it was all of the justices, and you said they went for 2.5 hours. So These are all alarm bells if you're a Donald Trump supporter, because here's the problem, that the president has put in a lot of capital on these tariffs. And so what happens, just let's go down that road. What happens if the Supreme Court says, you know what, on this President Trump, you're wrong? What happens then? Because we've already collected, I mean, how much in tariffs? $750 billion to $1 trillion in tariffs have already been collected. So what do we do? Like, give the money back? This could completely reshape Donald Trump's administration.
Well, you just summarized. I can summarize it better because he's been using it as this has been his major weapon in the economic trade war that he's been waging to fix what is a real problem, which is, look, I'm all in favor of free trade. I actually think the president is too, but it's not free trade when we, the U.S., allow products into our country from other countries like China, but they don't allow our products in without putting in huge barriers in place, like tariffs.
Yep.
And without what the president has been doing, without the power to do it, I don't know how he's going to deal with that particular issue. And in fact, that emphasizes the points that John Sauer, he's the Solicitor General for the Trump administration, made, which is, yeah, no president's used this power before, but they weren't willing to deal with it, and Trump is.
Yeah. And personally, I think that's one of the president's biggest, positives is that he is willing to push the envelope. And talking about the tariffs and the trade imbalance, I mean, not only is the trade imbalance with some of these nations does not favor our side, but they also put in, regulations that also put up barriers for our own companies to be able to export into their countries. And so this is a big conversation to have. I guess part of my question is, okay, so if this ultimately ends up going against Donald Trump, then we're already way down this road. I mean, we've got all of these trade deals that have already been negotiated with all of these different countries, not to mention, again, the almost $1 trillion in tariffs that have been collected. So, Hans, what do we do if this ultimately ends up with a loss for the president with all of these deals that have been negotiated, the money that we've already collected in tariffs? What happens?
You have a huge financial mess and all these people clamoring to have the money back. But I'll tell you something that's kind of one of the justices, Amy Coney Barrett, called an odd donut hole in this federal law. Because remember, what it says is that the president under national emergency can regulate the importation of goods from particular countries. Well, if the court rules that doesn't include tariffs, well, does that mean that the president has the power to, for example, ban he may not? Maybe he can't put a tariff on particular goods coming from China, but can he ban their total importation into the country? In fact, Amy Coney Barrett said that if this law, on the one hand, gives the president very broad powers, for example, allowing him to shut down all trade with a country, but on the other hand, doesn't allow him to take the much smaller step of imposing tariffs, That's kind of a conflicting stance. And the lawyer for the states who was asked that question really didn't have an answer to that. So he might go another step and say, oh, yeah, I can't impose tariffs? Okay, well, I'm going to stop the importation of particular goods from particular countries entirely. They can't bring them in at all. And then we'll be up before the Supreme Court again.
What, do you have well, first of all, so is there a possibility that they could come back and give Trump like a partial victory and a partial loss?
Yes. I think I come back, for example, and say, because remember, there's two questions here. One, does he have the power to correctly say that these are national emergencies,
right?
That these are extraordinary circumstances? But then the second question is, does he have the power to impose tariffs to deal with those emergencies? So, they could come back and say, well, yeah, it may be a national emergency, but you can't impose tariffs. And that's when I think the president would actually take the second step of saying, okay, well, then I'm just going to entirely ban particular products.
So he will have some options if he ends up losing, and then again, it'll have to go right back down to the lower courts and right back up to the Supreme Court, I guess. So at what point will we actually have a solution to this, a final verdict from the Supreme Court, assuming that President Trump, because I think that is what he would do, is he would try to find another way to maneuver around the Supreme Court if he ends up getting a loss and take his swing with another angle. I mean, when do you think we'll have a final verdict on this?
Well, the court acted extremely quickly at the request of everybody in this case. I mean, it's only the beginning of November. The Supreme Court's term only started 4 weeks ago, and they already had arguments. So I think we're actually going to get a decision very quickly. If it goes against the president, I think they'll act again very quickly, and I think the lawsuits, if a second set are filed, will once again be in front of the Supreme Court within the next couple of months. So I figure by the spring, when spring starts next year, we'll have a final answer one way or the other.
All right, Hans, what else is the Supreme, just real quickly, I've got like 90 seconds left. What else is the Supreme Court looking at right now? What can we expect?
Well, they have a huge case involving the laws that 24 states have passed saying biological men can't participate in women's sports. That's up before them. And they also have a big redistricting case out of Louisiana that we're waiting to hear on that could affect redistricting in many places, including Nashville and Tennessee.
All right. Something tells me I'm going to be speaking to you often in the next few months. Hans, always great to have you on the show for your perspective.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation on Super Talk 99.7. Can you imagine, Joan and Sam? Can you imagine if the Supreme Court does come back and hand Donald Trump a significant loss? That's going to reshape his entire administration.
Oh, it definitely would.
Because almost not everything, but a lot of the things that he's been doing have been tariff related when it comes to, bringing in income for the Treasury Department by way of tariffs, encouraging businesses to manufacture their items, cars, whatever, here in America as well. I mean, everything. A lot of the economic success that he has had has been based on the tariffs. And so if the Supreme Court takes that away, he was right, by the way. Hans von Spakovsky was right. Amy Coney Barrett talked about how this whole thing is just a complete mess because, we have received $750 to $1 trillion in tariffs. And so now what are we going to do? Are we going to have to, write checks to these countries? That's number one. Number two, you've got all these countries that have decided to have their goods made here in America to avoid the tariffs. Well, then all of a sudden, if those tariffs are gone, well, now what? Do all of those deals go away? I mean,
I don't think there's ever been more pressure on and it's not like the president is putting it directly on SCOTUS, but when you look at what he was able to craft as far as deals go,
yeah,
you're basically rejecting that if you reject his authority to do it.
Yeah. And so this is going to be a major issue. And so obviously you heard Hans, we should be hearing from the Supreme Court, and then Trump will have his reaction to whatever the Supreme Court's decision is. And it's going to be fascinating to watch not only what the Supreme Court decides, but also then what will Donald Trump do in response. Zohran Mamdani has now come out, the newly elected mayor of New York, has come out with a video. And if you want to see the entire video, follow me on X at Dan Manda Show. I've edited this down a little bit. But if you're watching on Super Talk TV, you can see the video. Listening on the radio, you can hear the audio. Listen to this.
Good morning, New York City, and thank you. Last night we made history, and today we begin the work of making a new administration. Welcome to the transition.
Oh, my goodness. So I'm just going to describe this for you, because the air of self-importance of Zohran Mamdani, I mean, it is oozing from this video. And when he just said, welcome to the transition, he's got this big, crap-eating kind of smile on his face. And he's very proud of himself for what he is, which, by the way, he should be. Because in my opinion, what he's done is he has pulled the wool over the eyes of many New Yorkers. And one of the things that we thought was interesting, and Joan, I think we talked about this yesterday, where Zohran Mamdani and the people of New York voting him in. And one of the things that we said was that clearly the people of New York have forgotten, in my opinion, about 9/11. And there's an interesting little factoid out there about who exactly it is that voted for Mamdani. And they're actually people that moved to New York more recently as opposed to old-time New Yorkers.
Yeah, I grokked it. According to exit polls, there's a sharp divide on the, long-term residents in New York. The majority of them, the lifelong and New York City-born residents, overwhelmingly voted for Cuomo, 66 to 71%, which is 42% of the electorate. Lived in New York for 20-plus years, 28% of the electorate, Cuomo 61%, Mamdani 39%. 10 to 20 years. Now, the percentage gets smaller, Cuomo 58%, Mamdani 42%. And then the shorter-time residents overwhelmingly backed Mamdani. 5 to 10 years, Mamdani won 76 to 81% of those votes. Less than 5 years, Mamdani won 83 to 87% of those votes.
And there's a lot of younger people there as well. And so I think that for the younger generation of New Yorkers, and we'll get Matthew Hurt's opinion on this, but the younger generation of New Yorkers who voted for Mamdani, they don't understand that communism doesn't work. Yeah. They simply don't understand.
They likely moved to New York from another part of the country with dreams and aspirations, as anyone does when they move to a big city.
Right.
And they realized, man, this 400 square foot studio apartment that's cost me $3,000 a month is ridiculous.
It's insane. All right, so this is more from his video that he put out yesterday.
Welcome to the transition. This is the period over the next few months where we build a city hall that delivers on the promises of our campaign, to make New York City affordable and to make government accountable to the people it serves. On January 1st, I will be your mayor. New Year's Day and a new era for this city. Oh, and one more thing. Remember how I told you a few months ago to stop sending us money? You can start again. This transition requires staff, research, and an infrastructure that can meet this moment. And it will be made possible by the people who built and believe in this movement.
So I'm so confused, man. I thought that everything was going to be free. I don't understand why Mamdani is now asking people for donations to fund the transition. And by the way, again, if you're watching on Super Talk TV, you saw this, but if you're listening on the radio, when he says, remember when I asked you to stop sending us money? Well, you can start again. With all apologies and love and respect to used car salesmen, but that's what dude looked like. Did you notice that, Joan?
I did.
Okay, good. So it wasn't just me.
Smarmy. I think that's the word that we developed this morning. Smarmy. Yes.
Smarmy Mamdani. It doesn't really roll off the tongue.
No.
Moving right along.
So I hope you'll make a donation at transition2025.com. Now let's get to work.
So there you go. And again, I from what I understand, and I don't roll with the crowd that would vote for Mamdani in the election there in New York. But I think some people are scratching their heads. Some people are feeling a little, I don't know, perhaps maybe a little betrayed. It's like, wait a minute. We're so confused. Everything was going to be free. Free childcare, free buses, free trans surgeries, free health care for illegals. I thought everything was going to be free.
You know, he should just talk to his buddy Alex Soros. According to Grok, all of the links between these PACs and everything estimate somewhere between $10 and $40 million have been donated to Mamdani over the last couple of years.
I mean, not real shocking. We talked about that during the election about who George Soros and Alex Soros is, who they donate to, and not real surprising. By the way, Bret Baier asked Donald Trump about Mamdani and about the things that Mamdani said regarding during Mamdani's speech when he said, what was it, Donald Trump turned the volume up, and just all of that ridiculousness. I played you the audio yesterday. But Bret Baier did ask President Trump, what did you think about what's going on in New York? And specifically, what did you think about Mamdani's speech?
You're the head of the party, so obviously the policies are run on in these states. Do you see that at all, or how do you read it?
Well, I do, because, we've done so much. Energy is way down. Look at energy. We're going to have $2 gasoline. I did that. That brings everything else down. Groceries are way down other than beef. Now, beef is going to come down. We have to do that.
Yeah, and one of the things that President Trump has been saying is that, and he did say yesterday in this interview with Bret Baier, that they have definitely, as far as the Republicans go in the Trump administration, they have made a lot of progress. And so all of this, I will say nonsense that the Democrats and Mamdani have been spewing, that the media has been just, lapping up, a lot of them simply are not true. And when I play some of this other audio from this interview with Bret Baier yesterday, you'll hear what the president said. But as far as what Mamdani has been saying about Trump and the administration.
Is there any part of you that looks at Mamdani and says, it is good for you politically to have a big foil there that you're going to talk about for the next 3 years?
I'm so torn, because I would like to see the new mayor do well, because I love New York. I really love New York. When I left New York for Washington, New York was doing really well, but there were some bad signs. The bad sign was a guy named de Blasio. So the signs of de Blasio, that was the beginning, and it was bad. This one, we're going to, look, for 1,000 years, communism has not worked. Communism, or the concept of communism, has not worked. I tend to doubt it's going to work this time.
Did you see his victory speech?
It's literally never worked. Yeah, I thought it was a very angry speech.
Even Van Jones said that it was an angry speech. Remember that? And it's interesting, because Trump, you heard him say that, I'm going to paraphrase here, but I hope he does well. No offense to Trump, but clearly, if you know what he wants to do to the city of New York, you don't want him to do well. I'll tear up. We were talking about Rush Limbaugh earlier when he said that he doesn't want Obama to, he hopes that he fails. Remember that whole controversy way back when? And that's what, I hope Zoran Mamdani fails, because what he wants to do is destroy the city of New York. Here's more from Donald Trump and his thoughts on Zoran Mamdani.
Certainly angry toward me, and I think he should be very nice to me. I'm the one that sort of has to approve a lot of things coming to him, so he's off to a bad start. He has to be a little bit respectful of Washington, because if he's not, he doesn't have a chance of succeeding. And I want to make him succeed. I want to make the city succeed. I don't want to make him succeed. I want to make the city.
I don't think the city of New York can succeed if Mamdani succeeds. Does that make sense? Like in the eyes of and in the minds of New Yorkers, the young New Yorkers who voted for Mamdani, what is success? Well, if all goes according to plan, Mamdani will raise the taxes of, the millionaires and the billionaires in New York, and they're all going to move away. Okay, and then what are you going to do? Then you're going to be cash-strapped, even more cash-strapped than you already are. Crime is going to go through the roof if Mamdani is able to do what he wants to do regarding cutting police officers and increasing the number of social workers and, effectively bashing the police, defunding the police, if you will, the free buses and all the free. If Mamdani succeeds at doing what he wants to do, New York can't succeed. But I kind of see where Trump is going. I feel like President Trump is trying to be just a little conciliatory. Do you know what I mean? Like he's trying not to, because this is yesterday, where in the minds of a lot of Republicans, and it is true, we lost some very important elections. And so I think President Trump maybe perhaps is a little bit more reflective. And that did seem to be kind of the mood that he was in, particularly when he talked about demanding that the Senate nuke the filibuster. We'll talk about that as well. But here's his final parting shots on Zoran Mamdani.
He succeed, and we'll see what happens.
Did you see reaching out to him?
I would say he should reach out to us, really. I think he should reach out. Right. I'm here. We'll see what happens, but I would think that it would be more appropriate for him to reach out to us.
I mean, I have no idea how that relationship between Trump and Mamdani is going to work because Mamdani, he made President Trump one of the focal points of his campaign. And it was obviously, as you all know, one insult after another. And so for President Trump, again, he sounded a little conciliatory there, but also a little contradictory because I don't believe that New York can succeed if Mamdani succeeds in doing what he wants to do. Now, you ready for this? Somebody put together an AI Frank Sinatra, New York, New York.
This is the best. Oh, my gosh.
Is this not the best?
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of great visuals here. There is a lot of great visuals. You can see it on Super Talk TV. However, listen to the lyrics because the lyrics are really, really funny as well.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today.
And by the way, it shows Mamdani kissing Elizabeth Warren in
gross.
What do you call that thing?
Headdress,
Indian headdress, making out with AOC as well.
I want no friggin' part of it. New York.
And New York is burning in the background.
These Hugo Boss shoes.
Stealing phones, crime.
Longing to stray. And take an Uber to LaGuardia. Ta-ta, New York.
Flying away from New York as it burns.
I wanna wake up.
Netanyahu in handcuffs.
That's safe and free. Without that slick jive-ass mayor, Comrade Mamdani.
Wow.
It's clear that Gen Z knows no history.
Oh, so true.
Just DEI and woke philosophy. Imagine North Korea with a dash of Sharia. That's what you got. New York, New York.
Firebombing Teslas. Police being attacked.
New York, New York. I want to wake up in a city that feels like home. And not with defunded police, migrants galore. Mamdani run grocery stores. Thinks he's a genius. AOC with a penis.
Oh.
It's time to stick a fork in it. New York, you're done. Soon the tax base will be gone.
Millionaires fleeing.
Boca Raton while Jaime Town becomes Commie Town. Should
He's so funny. If you want to see the whole thing, I've posted it to my ex at Tan Mandis Show. There's some great visuals there.
They end with tugboating the Statue of Liberty down.
Yes, the great visuals. The video does end, the crescendo there, a tugboat pulling the Statue of Liberty down into whatever bay that is in New York.
Hudson
Bay in New York. Very, very funny. By the way, Curtis Sliwa telling Zoran Mamdani, I'll be watching you, which is, yeah. You know, Sliwa's well, number one, Sliwa's a guy that I would not want to tick off, but, and Sliwa's been around for, I mean, everybody knows, he's been around for years and years and years, but, you know, I think it's going to be fun. I'm not going to repeat my monologue from yesterday, but I think it's going to be fun to see what happens in New York. And I think that when, and you've got Ron DeSantis, Governor Lee, by the way, I'm going to have this audio here in a little bit. I don't know if you saw that Governor Lee put out a video.
Yeah, he did.
Telling people from New York, you know what? New York may be, you know, closed to millionaires and billionaires and the people that really are the job creators and job generators in New York. But guess what? Tennessee is open for business. Tennessee is open for business.
Check this out. There's, I'll play just a bit of this. A Palm Beach luxury realtor.
Yes.
On Twitter yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this guy was going to win in New York City. I thought that our market was going to pick up, but I didn't think it was going to happen like the next morning. I'm like, okay, my sellers, like, settle down. I don't think they're just going to come, you know, racing down and, you know, from New York City, but it's, I don't know. I don't even know what time it is, 3 or 4 o'clock. I've literally been on the phone since 7 a.m., nonstop back-to-back calls I had.
She said that she's got some listings that have been like vacant and ready to sell for months, and she's got people buying them already.
Do you know what I would be interested in? If you're like a realtor here in Middle Tennessee, I want to know. Super text line 615-737-9986. I know several.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to reach out to my realtor friends, and if you want to reach out to your realtor friends, and if you're listening, send a note to 615-737-9986. Has your phone been, you know, ringing off the hook from people wanting to flee New York to come to the great state of Tennessee? Remember, we spoke about yesterday, the 3 states that the Daily Mail and others are saying that New Yorkers are going to come to is Texas, I think, Florida, Tennessee as well.